Welcome to Nashville North Studios. We're here today to interview Lindsay, Meredith, and Charles Ray. And Sally Saxe-Roik cannot join us today, but we're going to be doing some talking about her and her career. She's been in the arts for a while, and we want to hear all about that. So this was our opening that we had a couple weeks ago, and this is the solo room. I'm going to pan around so you can see the works that are here and available for purchase by each of the artists that we just talked about. And Charles' work is the woodwork, and it's scattered here throughout the solo room and actually throughout the gallery. The wall that you're viewing right now is by Lindsay Ray. They're her photography, and they're in different ways of presentation. We have them on metal, we have them on wood, and some are framed and some are unframed. And the one up on the left corner is a new adventure for her, and she is layering her work now. Then we go around the corner and we see Sally's work, her beautiful paintings. Sally captures people and the landscape and the seascape brilliantly. A lot of nice comments on all the work that's in here. And this, of course, in the middle is a wooden piece by Charles Ray. Then we're going to go over here. We're going to see Meredith's work. Now, Meredith is the granddaughter of Sally and the daughter of Lindsay, and Charlie. Gets confusing. Anyway, here's the work that we have, and they're here right now in the gallery, and they're going to be bringing their chairs in. And because I'm such a brilliant video maker, I'm going to set the camera down, and it's going to keep running. And we're going to talk to them about their work. So come on in with your chairs, and we'll see if this will work out. Let's just do a camera check, make sure you're in the right spot.
Camera check.
Not exactly. Stay there, I'm in the camera a little bit. Somehow
While
I
you're
didn't.
doing that, thank you in advance, Judy, for your support.
Yes, thank you, Judy.
We
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
We're a lot to handle, I know.
Okay, that's worse. I just cut Lindsay
Oh. Judy's
Get in.
confirmed.
Okay, so we're gonna go this way.
Yep.
There. The marks really didn't help me. There we go.
Good?
Perfect.
Okay.
Beautiful
Awesome.
family. Okay, let's start with Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
So, Lindsay, you have been a photographer for quite a while now.
Yes.
Yes, and you've had a non-traditional approach to photography, possibly influenced by your mother. Who's-
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. So could you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your journey in photography?
Well, when my kids were younger, I always took a lot of pictures of them. And I never took them to studios to have their photos taken. And I was always taking a lot of pictures of them. And they kind of didn't like it, but I did it anyway. And that was a lot of fun. And then in college, I borrowed a camera from my aunt, and I took a course in college. And I really, I really liked it a lot. And then when I graduated from college, the first thing I bought was a good camera. And then from there, I started taking more pictures, and the hobby gradually went into being a professional photographer. And I started entering shows. And that was influenced a lot by my mom, because she was always encouraging me to enter shows. And in the beginning, I wasn't real receptive. I was too busy. I was raising kids, etc. And finally, I started entering some shows and got some awards, and I kind of grew from that. And now I do it a lot. I'm into galleries and always experimenting, doing different things.
Yeah, it's a big leap to go from behind the camera to on the wall sometimes in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a whole new world. And once you finally get into that world, it's much more comfortable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And rewarding.
Yeah.
More rewarding.
Yeah. So, so you show locally and you show far away, don't you?
Yes. I've had some commission work with the Atlantic Care Healing Arts.
Mm-hmm.
I probably have about a dozen pieces out in different medical buildings. And the one that I'm most proud of is a wall mural out at Atlantic Care in Pomona. And that's of my Dunes at Dusk. And it's probably about 18 feet long and about 10 foot high in a waiting area out there. And that was a commission work a few years ago. And that's my biggest, a lot of people don't see it because they have to go to the hospital, but that's probably one of the pieces I'm most proud of.
Yeah, and right now a lot of us can't go to the hospital
Oh, right, absolutely.
to see artwork unless we are ill.
Right.
So hopefully when all this is over, we can all get out and do more things and see more art. It would
Fingers
be-
crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right.
Yeah, exactly. So, did you want to talk a little bit about your next step that you're on your photographs you're now creating and expanding?
Well, I'm trying to experiment a little more with painting and using resins. I'm kind of pulling away a little bit from photography. I'm always trying to do something new. I never stay with the same thing. I'm always trying different things. And a few pieces now I use photographs and I put them on wood and then I use molding paste and then I coat them with resin, and that's where I am right now. I'm having fun with that, but who knows, I'm working on some other things too.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing about art. It is a journey. And you have a lot of stops along the way.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Never stop experimenting.
No, never do that. Never do that. And you get a lot of your ideas from Provincetown.
Oh, absolutely. We have a cousin who lives in Cape Cod, and for the past, they just moved back there to the area.
Mm-hmm.
And every summer we go up there, I go to Provincetown, and the art out there is absolutely fabulous. And my whole family goes there, my mom, my daughter, and my husband, and we love going out there and looking at the artwork, and it's really neat, and I get very inspired out there. And that's how I got inspired to kind of pull a little bit away from photography and start working with the resins, because they're doing all kinds of neat stuff like that up there with different.
When we're done talking, I would like it if you wouldn't mind if you could show us a couple pieces and talk about them.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So, but first we want to talk to everyone, and Meredith is next.
And next.
Yes, and Meredith is the photographer too.
Yep.
And she has been inspired by Sally
Of course.
and
yes.
Lindsay and Charles.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Meredith.
So I'm 25 right now. I've been photographing probably since I was 14. My mom gave me my first point and shoot camera around that time. So it's been several years since I've, got into it. But my grandmother and my mom have definitely been the driving force for me getting into photography and kind of honing in on ocean photography. Hopefully you'll be able to see my grandmother, she does these vast ocean paintings, and then my mom does a lot of ocean photography. So I've kind of honed in on capturing really detailed moments of different water, the ocean, the bay, things like that. So I'm definitely pulling from them, and I'm thankful that they've kind of led the way for me today.
So it's capturing the mood
Yes,
and the
yes,
feeling,
yeah.
which is very important to you.
Definitely.
That's what I see in your work.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
And she has a really unique style, even though
Yeah.
she's doing oceans.
yes.
It's vastly different from me. She has a different eye, and she has
Yes.
really good composition. And I'm glad. I mean, I wish I was doing what she's doing now.
She always says that. She always says that.
Because she has a really neat eye and a really neat flair and a different style from me, which is neat.
Yeah, I think the difference between my grandmother's work and my mom's compared to me is I'm very close up and very zoomed into these tiny little moments that you might not catch just with the naked eye. So
Yeah. So this in turn is the reverse then. You are going to influence mom and possibly grandmother
sure, yeah.
and possibly dad,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
with your vision, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Absolutely.
exciting?
It's trickling down in different ways. So
It
that's
is,
cool.
it is, but both of you still, and mom too, concentrate on the natural world.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not just limited to ocean and bay photography for me too. I photograph a lot of wildlife, plant life, nature, birds, things like that. So very kind of well versed in all things nature.
Yeah. So I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
beautiful. So Charlie, if I could ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
You weren't always in woodworking.
No, I spent my career in journalism, and as I thought about today's video, I realized that even though I was a word person, it did involve design elements that I now look back on in a different way, and I can see that the designing of pages and the elements of pages inspired me to appreciate design and know that it requires work. And so some of my woodwork is very highly designed, and it has to be because I'm not staining the wood. Most people don't realize it when they're looking at the finished product. They assume that there's stain
They
involved,
do, they do.
as you know. And so I'm very proud to be able to use the natural wood, the tones, the grains, to complement things and incorporate all that into the design and keep it kind of natural.
And finding that wood is not always easy.
No, I have some secret suppliers
Ooh.
in places like, exotic places like Laureldale
Oh,
and Sicklerville.
okay.
Yes. But I do depend on them for the choices that I make, and as imperfect as the wood is also part of the process that leaves its mark to show that it's handmade. Each piece has its share of imperfections, and I like it that way. So.
Well, by not staining and painting wood, as many people do, you're allowing nature to speak for itself and reveal its beauty.
It's very much part of my process, yeah. Whether it's a table that has function or just something to look at, like the Eiffel Tower there, it's the wood inspiring the design inspiring the wood, the availability of the wood inspiring the design and the ability to create. Sometimes I can only get small pieces. It's like not having good light for a photographer. I just have to work with what I get. And in that case, you have to apply your design limitations to what you get and make it work.
Well, that small piece of wood would be like a jewel then. You use that in the most important spot to accent your piece.
Right, exactly what I do.
Like that touch of red in a painting or a photograph and
Yep.
working in color.
It's much like a palette, it really is. And if you want me to show examples of that afterward, I'd be
I
glad.
do. I'd like you all to do that.
Okay.
And before we go and do anything like that, Charlie, so you were a worker in words,
Yes.
and now you're a worker in wood, and you combine it with words, and very often you'll give me backstories.
Yes, I've encouraged other artists to do that. It gives a separate life to the piece, I think, if you can tell people the backstory, whether it's what inspired you or the trials and tribulations, excuse me, of making the object. Was it a person who inspired it, a situation, the wood itself? And to write that down often gives a particularly vibrant kind of life to the piece, especially if you're showing it and want people to really appreciate it on a deeper level.
And you can't be here to explain
That's right.
it. And I might explain it somewhat, But if I know the backstory, I can help people along in that journey.
Yes.
You know, as the artist's eye sees things differently than the casual art appreciator.
Yeah, you made me doubly appreciate the value of the backstory. For sure.
So let's talk a little bit about Sally. We'll hope she's holding her ears because they're probably going to burn.
A little
but-
bit.
Yeah. So Sally was a teacher.
My mom taught for about 30 years in Pleasantville. She taught pre-kindergarten. And she went to, well, back then it was Glassboro, and she got her teaching degree, but she also minored in art. But she also painted a lot when she was little. She was experimenting a lot when little. I still actually have some canvases that she painted little scenes on. I actually have that she gave to me. So she was dabbling in it as a child.
So were her parents artists?
No, well, everybody in the family played musical instruments. My mom played piano, but her older sister was a concert pianist. But my mom kind of went more in the art. So she did do it as a child.
So maybe she was encouraged then.
Yeah, because everybody was artsy, you know, either through music or art.
Well, they're hand in hand often in a family.
Yeah,
Definitely.
right, yeah.
That ability to create in some way, either on the page, on the canvas, through the camera's lens, with wood. It
Right.
all translates one to the other. And it's an understanding that families share,
Right,
which
right.
is beautiful.
And I can remember as a child, when my mom wasn't teaching in the summer, that's when she painted the most, because she was home.
And that's when you lived in Linwood?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would get out her paints and spread them all out, and kind of would get annoyed if I came inside. She's like, "I want you to stay outside," so she could concentrate painting. And I never understood that until I started dabbling in getting away from photography and doing stuff. I realized, oh, you gotta concentrate to do. It's a little different than photography, doing the resins and the stuff that I've been
Well,
experimenting
even in
with.
photography, you have to follow your thoughts. And if they're constantly interrupted,
Right,
they don't really flow.
right.
as
And I
we
understand,
all
I
know.
appreciate that more now as an artist, so I didn't as a child when my mom would kind of shoo me out of the house with my friends when she was painting.
Yeah. So sometimes it's the quiet hours of the night
Or the day.
or the day, the way
Yeah.
we seek haven with our art.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
So anything else to add about Sally? I know she's painted with some illustrious people in the area.
Yes, she has Attilio Stenogra.
Sinagra.
And yeah, she took some classes up at the Pennsylvania Academy of Art. And but she's pretty much self-taught, and she's experimented in a lot of different. She started out doing a lot of the seascapes, many large seascapes, and she sold in galleries in Pennsylvania and North Jersey, and then she has always done a lot of figures. She loved doing figures, and now she's doing a little more abstracts, and so she's kind of covered many different genres. in
She
her painting.
has.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also want to note that for any passers-by at Nashville North Studios, there's a selection from each of you in the front window. So even if we're not open at that particular moment, you can still see some of the work. And then they could come back later, and it's always advisable to make an appointment if you want to have the gallery to yourself. You know, which is a nice
We
way
live
to
close
see.
by, we could always drop by and
Yes.
greet
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And my fluffy scissors. Slippers.
Slippers.
Sorry.
Slippers.
Say that 12 times
Right.
fast.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick up the camera. And who would like to go first?
Why don't you
I'll
talk
go.
about one of the,
I'll talk about one of my.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Here we go. Okay. Here we go.
Let me see this one here. This picture here is one of the pictures that I've done that kind of was influenced by some artists that I saw in Provincetown, and it's a photograph mounted on a gallery
I call it a gallery block. But the white is molding paste, many layers of molding
May I
paste.
come closer?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
And I used palette knives and different instruments to get the texture, and probably at least 3 layers of different kinds of molding paste.
Mm-hmm.
And then after it dried, then I mixed resin and I poured the resin over it and let it dry.
Mm-hmm.
And then resanded the sides and painted it. And this one's called Aqua Web because it kind of looks like a.
And you have 2 more similar to that out on your gallery space here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like working with this. It's because it still combines my love of photography,
Mhm.
but it's really a mixed media piece, and I like experimenting with the molding paste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of the direction, one of the directions I'm going into.
Okay. Well, very nice. Shall we call in the next artist?
Sure. I guess my husband will be next.
Okay.
Well,
Hi, Charlie.
Hi. As I was saying, sometimes the materials that I'm able to get dictate what I'm able to make.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great example of an exotic hardwood here that I can only get small pieces of.
Mm-hmm.
So you're faced with the limitation of that, but I was able to turn it into something very, very memorable, fun to make,
Mm-hmm.
and even forcing me to go back into history and looking at photographs as to how the tower was actually built, and make it as accurate as I could.
So, Mr. Eiffel.
And that's all natural, unstained.
Mhm. And what is the wood?
I believe this. I know this is.
Rosewood and
Padauk.
Padauk.
Yes. I'm not 100% sure of the rosewood. This is a
Mhm.
good example of other of materials that I use without stain
Mm-hmm.
that are beautiful in terms of their natural contrasts
Mm-hmm.
and don't require any stain in my book. And so that's a good example of the various the palette basically that I enjoy using.
Mm-hmm. It's to me, I've often commented it's like a slot canyon.
Very nice. I like
You know, because you could. It just to me, it has the movement,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people don't see it unless you get down at eye level with it.
Right.
Yeah, and the table that it's on is also lovely.
That's a gooseneck table,
Mhm.
and that's made out of, let's see, the legs are, I believe, maple,
Mm-hmm.
and the Padauk is the crossbar, and I don't remember what the tabletop is at the moment. It might be mahogany. All right, Meredith's ready.
Okay. All right. Just one more thing I want to show here, which is your curve appeal
Yes, yes.
with Bubinga.
That's a good example of a happy accident where I sanded something to a thinness that was really not what I wanted, but I found new meaning and new possibilities in the mistake, and so I turned it into an advantage, and that piece came out of that mistake.
To me, it's almost like a flower.
Thanks. Here you go.
And now we have Miss Meredith.
So yeah, we can just focus on this one in the middle here.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, a lot of my work is really focused on these very tiny moments that happen in the water, whether it be the ocean or the bay.
Mm-hmm.
I typically shoot down the South Jersey area, but I also shoot, when we're traveling as well. This piece down here on the bottom right is printed on metal.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I shot this in British Columbia on Emerald Lake at the national park there. So I do experiment with printing on metal, just kind of like my mom does as well. And I'm hoping to eventually print a little bit larger as time goes on. But yeah, this is my body of work here. Pretty much everything here is focused on the details, which I love to kind of show. And then a lot of people notice that too, and then when they go out in nature, they kind of take the time to really look closely at things rather than just let them pass by. So that definitely makes me really happy.
Well, the nice thing about your size of your works that you're
Yes.
doing currently is they're affordable
Yes,
for
that is
people
true.
who want to have a jewel.
Yes.
They're like a jewel,
Definitely.
and they can have like 1 or 2 pieces.
Sure, 1 or 2.
You know,
yeah.
so-
A lot of them do kind of complement each other as well. I've had people, pick and choose prints that they kind of think make a nice little series, and then they, get them framed, or they purchase them framed by me. So, a lot of different options. I'm definitely willing to work with people if they're interested in certain things too, to get what they want. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So
Thank you.
the show will be up for, what is it, a couple more weeks, is it? Let's see. Let's go over here. It'll be up to 118. So you all can come in and see the show, read about the pieces that are here. And just as a little sidebar, Charlie made a modern birdhouse that's out front of a studio in the tree. And it's really attractive. So you'll want to stop by and see everything that's here, and see the group show Love in the Brave New World. And we'd like to thank the Rays for coming by today. They've been a ray of sunshine.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Take
think you might have
care.
said 118, but it's 218.
I'm sorry.
Is it 218?
Oh yeah, 218.
There you go.
218. Sorry.